Welcome to Letters to Louie with Abby Algiers. Welcome back, Abby.
Thank you so much, Sally.
Happy New Year.
To you too.
You found this wonderful letter that your father wrote to his good friend Louie Fry, and it has to deal with dreams, as I do, and a very interesting reflection towards the end of that I really would like to talk about and just let our viewers kind of, hear our thoughts on that.
Right.
So if you want to go ahead and read that, and then we
Okay.
can talk about that.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
The next 5 years. Dear Louie, about 1 month ago, in a writing course that I had begun but not finished, I wrote an assignment by hand on the topic of where I would be in the next 5 years. The course director was assigning a generic lesson plan and didn't consider what 5 years at this stage might mean. I did the prescribed lesson and today reviewed what I had written. With my memory problems of the present, it was mostly all new stuff. I will transcribe the assignment and let you shake your head and hopefully smile as you regard my slow decline. I wrote, in keeping with the lesson of the day, I will write of my plans for the next 5 years. It is rather presumptuous to anticipate the next 5 years. I am now 85. To write of the future 5 years at ages 40, 45, 60, or even 70 or 75 makes more sense than to write of the next 5 years at the age of 85. There are some optimistic yearnings at younger ages, which in reality seems borderline foolish at this age, might even be presumptuous. However, according to the Northwestern Life Insurance Tables of Longevity, someone aged 85 with no significant previous illness of tumor origin or cardiovascular disease has some reason for an optimistic position to write of the next 5 years and to state desires for the future. So, two avenues are juxtaposed: where I perceive to be in 5 years, if alive, and the other, where I will be if I die during the 5 years. I prefer to address the first consideration. Although, if I were a man of faith, I might realistically spend some time, as did Thomas Aquinas and others, in contemplation. However, with the Aztec consideration of 2012, I suppose both positions are dubious. To live 5 years into the future at age 85 poses both optimism and pessimism. Optimistically, I hope for continued physical and mental health. I foresee a decreasing ability to enter into family and social involvement. I foresee a realistic decline in motivation and participation in the lives of family members, but continual interest therein. A quieter voice in family affairs, but nevertheless, judgments are rendered when an objective view is needed. Physical functional ability will decline, but it might be modified by continual physical involvement in nonviolent activities, such as walking, gardening, and of course, golf. One must challenge oneself with some frustration. I have noted memory decline, but recall still comes about when challenged and not under duress, albeit sometimes slower and at less appropriate times. Writing and reading need to be carried on, and those activities seem to compensate for any true loss of cognitive function. Without a doubt, these skills must be continually honed. These are my main goals and activities for the next 5 years, and writing should be of personal biographic nature. Still, it should have an element of editorial activity, of judgmental and critical nature. The principle of active participation demands just that: participation. I have come to realize that social involvement decreases as one ages and loses friends, but involvement must be continued. Obviously, medical skills have declined, but again, this year I intend to teach a course in physical diagnosis and history, now known as clinical examination and reasoning. I will continue until I am no longer welcome. I trust someone will state the obvious at the proper time. Sometime, probably in the near future, medicine will lose its attraction and a substitute will need to be found. Reading, historical in nature, has become a welcome pastime in the past and should continue. This depends on reading skills, but living in this time and place, the spoken book concept seems promising. Listening to a reading book activity demands concentration in its participation, and concentration, I believe, stimulates the neurons to function at a higher level. I hope to wear out the neurons and not to be worn out by inaction. It would appear that the determinants of active longevity are less personal and more luck of the draw. However, the genetic pattern, if expressed and not abused, in my family is for longevity, with fairly active physical and mental participation. I do not intend to jeopardize that feature with habits detrimental to active living. A martini at 4 p.m. with 2 olives on the rocks is still a virtue and not a vice. So be it. Dream on, Louie, as I do. Jim.
So I had to look up the name Thomas Aquinas, and he was an Italian priest. And before we went on camera, I was just talking about some of the points that he's known for. But you had mentioned that your father had that book on his...
Yes, I just remember seeing one of his books and just kind of an example of
Right.
all of the reading that he did.
In his office. at
Yes,
home.
in his office at home.
And I'm bringing that up because 85, he's still teaching. He's taking new classes to write. What an inspiration, not only for you as his children,
Right.
but for all of his peers.
Right.
And continuing to write to Louie, whether Louie was physically present or not, is,
Right.
I think, a great thing to keep the mind going. So, 85. How long did he live after this?
He lived 9 years after. And, when I read this, I just thought, he didn't know what was in store for him, but his motto and his driving force was, I'm just, I'm here. I'm going for it. I'm doing what I can.
Mm-hmm.
And just, things to keep going and to keep his mind active.
Do you think that kept your mother going as well?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I think that couples, that kind of share interests, because they would both read at night. They would both they'd watch TV, sure, but reading was a big thing, and I think that was so important. Lots of discussions, things like that.
And so in writing this letter to Louie, he basically is discussing his aging process, right?
Right.
And what he's doing, what he's trying to stay vital, I think, is how I look at this letter. I don't know what your thought is on that.
No, I agree. And
Okay.
even when he was talking about reading, just someone could say, well, your eyes might fail you as you get older. And then he brought up, the audiobooks. That
Yes.
They're intriguing, and they also not only tell a story, but they make you concentrate, which is important to keep your brain going.
Absolutely. I think the audiobook idea has been wonderful because it does force you to use your imagination.
Right. It really does. And it's entertaining. You can get it from the library too, which is another thing for if you're aging, you can't necessarily go out and buy all these things. So it's accessible.
Yes. And I just wanted to mention that I know that you currently have been publishing a blog for over 2 years now.
Yes.
Are we at?
Yeah.
So a lot of this information you can find on your blog if anyone's interested that is watching this and intrigued to hear more or watch what has happened in the past since you and I have started this
Right.
again.
Yes,
So
they're all there. The letters are there.
it's exciting.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you for coming in here in January.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And to our viewers, as always, thank you for watching.